It's spring! And when it's spring you can do one thing. You can do many things, but you can make a willow bark whistle. I'll show you how to do it. Okay, this is hazardous. Ah! This is not ideal. So all you need is a fresh willow shoot and a sharp knife. This is a nice piece, for example. So normally you would use a piece that's a bit more straight, but I already used these to make some test flutes, so this is the only one I have left. So I hope it works as well. So the first thing you do is make a cut about 5 centimeters away from the top. Make sure you go all the way around. So the next step is to hit the branch with a piece of wood or with the backside of your knife. But as you can see, I've cut myself pretty bad 2 hours ago doing that. So instead of using your knife, I would advise you to just take a piece of wood. Next thing you do is hit the branch with this piece of wood and make sure to cover every spot on the bark on the whole length of the branch. This makes removing the bark possible. It's very important to check the branch if there's any side branches sticking out. So these small bumps are okay, but if it's a small branch, it will make it impossible to remove the bark because it will split the bark. Make sure you hit the bark of the branch everywhere. Next thing to do is to try and twist the bark. Here is where we made the cut, so take a firm grip just above it and then try to twist until you hear it crack. You can feel the bark sliding around the wood. Then go a bit lower and do the same. So it might be that you just hear a crack, but sometimes you can hear a loud pop. So if you have worked your way down and you think every spot is loose, now comes the part where the magic happens. Without twisting, you simply try to slide the bark off by pulling. Here you have it. So apparently it also works with very crooked branches. That's interesting. So, next step is to cut the wood about here, doesn't really matter, as long as you have enough space to work. So I would say about 7 to 10 centimeters. Now you reinsert the dowel back into the bark. To make it slide better, you can put it in some water or just simply lick the wood. If you're using willow, that is, and the wood is not toxic. Gently insert it. So now you should have your hollow tube and your dowel inserted. Here is where we cut the bark at first. So about 2 centimeters below that we will cut the fipple. Make a straight cut down. And then we are going to make an angular cut towards the other one. When you've done that, you just remove the piece again. So as you can see, we just made a very rough fipple. You can clearly see the mark of the straight cut on the dowel now, and we want to remove this bottom part. This leaves you with your hollow tube and your dowel. And when you insert this piece, it stops right at the straight cut. So what we want now is an air chamber underneath the bark for air to flow through and to break on the sharp edge of the fipple. To create this, we will remove a little bit of the wood on the top of the dowel. Best is to do this with baby steps so you don't take away too much at once. Try to make sure the surface is as smooth as possible and make your cut straight or in a downward slope like this one. So now we will see if we get some sound. As you can see, this creates an air chamber for air to flow through and to break on the fipple. To get sound, you just blow straight into this. So let's do a first sound test. So there's a little bit of sound, but not enough air is flowing through the windway. As you might or might not be able to see, the windway is too narrow. so I'm going to remove some more material. Make sure your windway is perfectly aligned with the fipp, and let's do a second sound test. So still not good sound. So now we have to look at the fipp. So as you can see, it's very rough and there's not enough space for the air to break on the sharp edge. So I'm going to make the bottom of the U a bit wider. So as you can see, I made the bottom of the U much more flat. This is not necessary. Sometimes it works with a very sharp U, but when it doesn't work, I found that this sometimes does the trick. So this is much better. Still not perfect, so I'm going to mess around with it a bit and see if I can get the sound a bit cleaner. Another trick is to remove some more bark from the top of the dowel, so you can actually slide the dowel forwards a bit and backwards until you get the sweet spot where you get good sound. So I'm going to cut away a strip of about 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters. So now I can put the block a bit deeper. Let's see if this sounds better. So there you have it, your willow bark overtone flute.